All right, let's talk a little more about the valves themselves. So cylinder heads generally are either going to be a 2-valve design or a 4-valve design. That said, there are also plenty of engines that are either a 3 or a 5. If it's an odd number, it's going to have an intake valve as the extra valve most of the time. So multiple intake valves, single exhaust valve. If it's a 2-valve design, these injectors here, which are actually pretty centered in this, if you can see, maybe I can get you an angle from the side here. You can see those actually come in at an angle. So coming in at an angle is going to have a spray pattern that shoots a little bit to the side. That's where you're going to end up with a piston with an offset bowl like that. If you've got a 4-valve head, then that injector is going to be located directly in the center. So these are your injector solenoids. Your actual injector is below this rocker here. Your injector is dead set between those 4 valves so that you can have a piston that looks much more symmetrical with a centered bowl on it. Like I showed you before, this one you can still see the orifices that's spraying fuel. So those valves, almost all designs are going to be a poppet valve in these, which means you've got a chrome-plated valve stem and then a large valve head. That means these are welded together. There's actually a weld right there. Great design, but when they're overheated, that weld can be prone to failure. What happens if that weld fails? Well, not good stuff. You get something like that. Imagine that weld failing, breaking off that valve head, and letting it bounce around in that cylinder while your engine's doing 2,500 RPM. So this valve, I just removed from this cylinder head, rides right there. So it comes up and down, actuated by its rocker arm, which is driven by either directly by a camshaft or by a push tube, which is going to be riding on some kind of follower on that camshaft. You're going to have a valve spring here. You're going to have a rotator built into either the top or the bottom to actually rotate this valve a little bit each time it's opened or closed. That keeps the hot spots gone. Makes it so that you don't burn a valve as easy. Burning a valve is overheating the valve to where a chunk of it actually gets so hot it flakes off and is gone. You lose compression in that cylinder then, and you can do damage. So in addition to the poppet valve that I just showed you is actually a 2-piece design, the valve spring, the rotator, you've also got your collets, which are how that valve stem is secured. It's a 2-piece design. You've got a valve stem seal, which keeps oil from passing by here. And then you've got your guides and your seats, which I alluded to earlier. Let's take a better look at that. So you can see this shiny part in here is actually a replaceable valve seat. Down in there deeper, you can see the guide. This guide is not replaceable. It's machined into the head. Larger premium engines that are designed to be able to be rebuilt time and time again will have replaceable valve guides. Here's the top half of that. If we were to put this valve back through from the bottom, you would then put your spring, your rotator, you would compress this spring, you would lock this collet onto the shaft here, and then you would relieve the spring pressure back up onto there, and it would stay right in place just like the one next to it is. The valve seal actually gets installed on the valve guide down there.